Coming up in all angles, anti-racism protests continue,
racism ends!
But with new targets.
I am extremely aghast that a high-ranking Jamaican official is wearing this, especially a black person. We should not ignore the importance of symbolism.
I hope the exposure of this disgusting racist symbolism and the willingness of successive GGs to wear it without objection leads to the abolition of that whole institution.
But should the conversation be broader? Is it time now to revisit the call for the Queen of England to be removed as Jamaica's head of state?
We're supposed to come from under our rule. We are black people and Africa we come from.
I don't have a problem with the Queen, so I don't see why them should be removing the Queen.
Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jacksonville, and as always, a very special welcome to our viewers on onespotmedia.com. So on tonight's program, we're going to be talking about colonial relics. What are those? We'll find out in a little bit. And also the related question as to whether the Queen of England, who is still our head of state, should be removed as Jamaica's head of state. Now, later on in the program, we are going to be hearing from Attorney General Marlene Malahoo Fort, as well as Leader of Opposition Business in the Senate, Donna Scott Motley. In this segment of the program, we have with us human rights advocate Glenroy Murray, as well as Professor Vereen Shepherd, Director of the Center for Reparation Research at the UWI. Before we go to them, though, Giovanni Dennis has this overview.
This is the insignia that sparked the latest controversy on social media. It's called the Order of St. Michael and St. George, one of the highest orders of the British monarchy, personally bestowed by the Queen. The royal website says it was established in 1818 to recognize distinguished citizens. On one side of the badge seen here, the Archangel St. Michael is supposedly trampling Satan. The problem, the Archangel is white and is standing on the neck of a black man. In the post-George Floyd era, many see this as unacceptable. George Floyd was an African-American killed on May 25 after a white policeman knelt on his neck. Bumi Thomas, a Nigerian-British specialist in visual communications, is quoted as saying the imagery on the badge was clear.
It is not a demon. It is a black man in chains with a white, blue-eyed figure standing on his neck. It is literally what happened to George Floyd and what has been happening to black people for centuries under the guise of diplomatic missions. Active, subliminal messaging that reinforces the conquest, subjugation and dehumanization of people of colour.
Now, with the Queen of England still Jamaica's head of state, this is an honour bestowed on her representative here in Jamaica, the Governor-General Sir Patrick Allen. He lives right here at King's House on Hope Road in St. Andrew. In this official photo posted on the King's House website, the Governor-General is wearing the controversial badge. A petition on change.org for the redesign of the badge and an apology for its use has already attracted over 7,000 of the 7,500 signatures being sought. But the badge is just one of a long list of colonial relics in Jamaica because the Queen of England is still our head of state, nearly 60 years after independence. For one, there's the throne speech delivered by the Governor-General at the start of each legislative year. Ironically, in 2016, he said this.
Or a Constitution Amendment Bill to replace Her Majesty the Queen with a non-executive president as its head.
2. The highest honor for lawyers is to be designated Queen's Counsel. 3. Jamaica's specialist maternity hospital is named Victoria Jubilee Hospital. The Southeast Regional Health Authority says it was established in honor of the Queen. 4. There's the Princess Margaret Hospital in St. Thomas. 5. In Jamaica's courts, judges are addressed by the titles Milord or Milady. 6. The oath of allegiance for foreigners wishing to become Jamaican citizens, according to the Passport and Immigration Citizenship Agency, states in part,
I, Jane Doe, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, according to the laws of Jamaica.
After independence in 1962, Jamaica did change the name of this park from Victoria Park to St. William Grant Park, after the heroic Labour leader of the 1938 riots. Ironically, however, the statue of Queen Victoria remains in the park, with no statue of the man after whom the park is actually named. Giovanni Dennis, for All Angles.
Taking us out there with the iconic Redemption song. All right, thank you so much for that, Giovanni, and let's come to my guest, and I'm going to actually start with you, Glenroy. So first of all, your reaction to the insignia itself.
I mean, it's obviously upsetting. George Floyd and Black Lives Matter has made us much more aware and sensitive to any type of symbols of anti-Blackness, and you can't avoid that. That's what that is. It is a symbol of anti-Blackness. But I definitely think that this is an opportunity to have a broader conversation about Jamaica being a post-colonial society, and I hope that the conversation isn't just about very important symbolic changes, but changes that in the end amount to superficial changes.
And we'll come to that. Prof, your reaction?
Well, it's an unfortunate visual to have emerged at this time, because it invokes so much the image that we saw of the white policeman with his feet or his foot on the neck of a black man. So it is timely that we have this conversation. It's not, 2020 was not the first year in which we have been having the conversation about the monarchy and all the symbols of colonialism, but we ebb and flow about these issues. But I think that it's now time for us to have a serious conversation. And it struck me that as we're talking about the monarchy and the system and whether we should remove or not, that this symbol, this emblem would have been introduced during the reign of George III from 1760 to 1820, if it came in 1818. So we have had a long history of being influenced, you know, by kings and queens. And I think we have to have a national conversation about this now.
Well, the King's House has issued a statement. The Governor General is saying he wants to acknowledge the concerns that have been expressed about the medal. He gives a history. He says it's traditionally been bestowed and worn by governors general across the Commonwealth. He speaks of what it's supposed to be depicting, the archangel being triumphant over Satan, and says, quote, however, in light of the heightened scrutiny of our iconography in Jamaica, undergirded by our history, the Black Lives Matter movement in America, and related issues in the global sphere, it is evident that the image can be offensive. The Governor General acknowledges and welcomes the concerns expressed by our citizens and the negative emotions the image has caused, and urges his fellow Jamaicans that the necessary requests will be made for a revision of the image.
It shouldn't have taken this image. You know, it shouldn't have taken the public outcry for him to understand that the image is offensive. He didn't see it before.
But perhaps he didn't, though. We spoke off the record with somebody who was associated with King's House, and they said they never saw it. Because it's presented in a little...
didn't see it?
I think what it also points to is how desensitized we've become to these symbols of colonialism in so many different ways in our society. When we think about how black hair is treated in schools, when we think about the historical treatment of Rastafari, like, we have become desensitized to all of that. So is it odd for us to see a white man trampling a black man and think, oh?
Is this, how do you react to the statement? I say Clyde Williams, you know, cussing about it, saying that the phraseology, it's evident that the image can be offensive, is problematic.
Yes, it is offensive. It's not that it can be offensive, it is offensive. And my reaction to this statement was like, oh, okay, blah, really. And let's see where we go from here. And it's not only these emblems, though, you know. We have to have, I agree with you, we have to have a deeper conversation, because there are churches in Jamaica, there are communities in Jamaica which every day celebrate Europeans and planters and people who were enslavers. The whole of Brownstown is named after Hamilton Brown, who took up arms to put down the war led by Sam Sharp. And he actually, you know, joined with the Colonial Church Union to burn down Baptist churches. The whole of Brownstown is named after him. His grave is in an Anglican church yard there. And if you go into various other churches in St. Elizabeth, Black River, in Spanish Town, there are tributes to these oppressors. And I don't think people are even aware. They go to church, they worship. They're not aware that George Beckford, that Beckford is, not George Beckford, what am I saying? That Robert Beckford is out there, and other Beckford families and other people who are, you know, in churches and people just walk by them. These are people who got compensation money out of the labor of our ancestors.
Hold that thought for me, because when I come back after the break, I want to ask you both a little bit more about some of the other relics, colonial relics that you find offensive. Let's go to the break and look at some social media comments. People, there's been this lively discussion going on Twitter all day. And remember, our hashtag is TVJ All Angles. We're back in a moment.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much for watching.